김성현 선수 왼쪽, 고석현 선수 오른쪽입니다. 첫 번째 대결 카멜롯. 먼저 보이는 테란 진영 김성현 선수죠. 지난 시즌 16강 김태경 선수에게 발목 잡히면서 올라가지 못했습니다. 이에 맞서는 저그 고석현 선수지요. 예선을 뚫고 ASL 출전 기회를 잡은 고석현 선수입니다. 까다로운 상대를 만났다고는 인터뷰에서 밝혔는데요. 만약 김성현 선수를 잡아낸다면 이변의 주인공이 될 수가 있어요. 부산에서 직관, 조지명식 보러 왔어요. 부산이고, 야, 잘 오셨습니다. 23일 직관까지 하셨어요. 저희는 뭐든 드리겠습니다. 뭐 남는 것은 뭐든 드릴게요.
네.
네, 이런 열정에는 저희가 보답을 해줘야 됩니다. 예, 뭐 다양한 이벤트 선물들이 있는데,
네.
그 중에서도
뭐든 드리겠다.
예, 뭐든 드리겠습니다.
생수가 될 수 있는 거죠.
생수가 될 수도 있고 아니면 이게
네.
또 랜덤 박스 개념으로
그렇습니다.
여러 음료가 될 수도 있으니까요.
네.
최대한 좋은 걸로 챙겨주시기 부탁드리겠습니다.
일단은 찾으러 갔으니까요.
예, KT 나오게 해주세요. 이 7년째 대학생, 2년째 고시생.
네.
이게 거기다가 해외에서도
네.
좀 많은 분들이 좀 와주셔가지고 다시 한번 감사드리고요. 네. 이 카멜롯에서 이 고석현 선수는 어떤 작전을 좀 들고 나왔을지가 오늘 관전 포인트 중에 좀 하나인데요.
그렇습니다. 뭔가 이제 공격적인 플레이로 대두되던 선수가 바로 이 고석현 선수고요. 그리고 이제 카멜롯 같은 경우는 테란과 저그가 한 경기가 있었죠. 예, 그때 이제 윤찬희 선수의 경기로 기억을 하는데 김민철 선수가 선전을 했음에도 불구하고 테란의 전진을 막지를 못했고 테란이 일단 수비를 해가면서 양쪽 횡으로 펼쳐져 있는 멀티를 꾸역꾸역 먹기 시작을 하면은 결국 아무리 열심히
in the Zerg toolbox, what can be done against those? Well, you have to secure a third base if you're going to beat him, unless it's going to be a very aggressive all-in, which is hard to pull off against Terran early on.
Yeah, Terran is always a little bit fragile in the early game, but at the same time, it just seems like it would not be... I just can't imagine Last losing to that. I feel like he's going to be ready for that.
It's like Terran can be fragile in the early game because they kind of gain strength as it goes on, but against Zerg, if you just do things like make a wall in or like make a bunker, it becomes incredibly hard for Zerg to actually kill you. They need to get some tech units. Slow Zerglings don't end up doing very much, and then even by the time you get speed, hard to get the surface area because of the way Terran places buildings. So
yeah, very true. So far this looks like a pretty normal opener here for HyuN. He's just going to go ahead and get his second base up. We'll see when exactly he decides to get his third, if he gets his third, which I think you're right with what you were saying, Artos, is he basically has to do that. And then we're going to have the layer tech coming up here, and we'll see, does he try to go for a muta play? Does he get a third hatchery before the layer? Or does he try to do some kind of two-hatch Zergling lurker? For the Terran, all we know is that he wants to get a quick expand up. By the way, Zerg is going to get that third hatchery. And then Terran, I'm assuming he's just going to go into some bio play. Maybe mech, but I don't think so.
No, I think it'll most certainly be 4 or 5 racks, Marine, Medic, maybe a couple Fire Bats mixed in there as well. So, yeah, that's what he should be going for. It's just we got to watch HyuN here because he's going to be the one that dictates. Last should be playing a very standard opener here, just trying to get into a good place. And in fact, adding a second barracks before getting a gas, not getting a quick academy or anything like that, while his SCV is in his opponent's base and scouting 3 hatcheries, I find this to be slightly surprising, and I wonder if it's just because he's placing himself as a stronger player than HyuN. Sometimes, if you feel very confident, you just want a few extra units early on.
Yeah. Well, I suppose, yeah, you're basically right, Artos, is if you're against somebody and you pretty much know that you like macro better, better controlling bigger armies, that you just want to get into the later games, so just play a super safe round. We do have some Marines pushing out here. Now, this is not to try to kill the Zerg. This is to try to scare the Zerg into making a few extra Zerglings. He'll then go back. Now, the Zerg knows that, but every once in a while, the Terran player will really push forward, and the Zerg was greedy with drones. And this also keeps the Zerg back with their Zerglings, and keeps the game a little bit more active for the Terran and the Zerg.
And I also want to bring up the wall-in that could have something to do with the second barracks. Just a really quick mention this. Some people might not realize. Bottom left, that's where everything spawns out of the barracks. So when you wall like that, everything will spawn on the outside of your wall.
That's right.
And if everything's spawning outside of your wall and your opponent starts to attack you, you can't lift that barracks and get the Marines inside. So you're going to be stuck on just like the 4 Marines. So anyways, Last is completely safe. He's teching up a bit. And definitely not to my surprise, HyuN is throwing down the Hydralisk Den. It does look like it's probably going to be Lurkerling to open.
Yeah, not surprising. Lurkerling is a really powerful unit composition where all your gas is invested into making the lurkers. The rest of the minerals go into the lings. The symbiosis of the lings and the lurkers. The lings can, of course, get around the marines, so if they sometimes can't run away without absorbing a lot of those lurker spines. And this is something that when the Zerg is like this on the map, the Terran has to respect it for the time being.
Yeah, he's going to have some control there for a while. Of course, you're going to want to get out of your natural before they begin to attack. You might have to throw down a couple bunkers. You might lose some depots, have to lift that racks and whatnot. It's not the biggest deal, though, if something like that occurs, because, you know, the Lurkerling, you can kind of cover all of your bases against it. Lurkerling is scary if you miss control, but as long as you're in a good position and you don't, you're going to be able to kind of dictate a lot of the flow of the game.
Sometimes Terrans against Lurkerling will try to come out here and get their Marines to contain the Zerg, where the Lurkers are going to be making in the main. But in this case, we see HyuN's actually gone around. He's escaped early on with his Hydralisks. That being said, I don't really know if he doesn't have his Hydras over here and this doesn't finish in time. These spines might actually not be enough, and this can completely fall out of control. He needs to actually use those spines. Good targeting. You want to make sure your spines are targeting the individual Marines together so they can't heal up in time. But clearly for Terran, he knows that Zerg is out on the map, and that means lurkers could come in here and surprise him. So he's going to have to be very careful here.
Yeah, that definitely was a bit telling. Some missile turrets going up, though. He doesn't know exactly what tech that there is. You go for comsats a little bit late as Terran because it does interrupt SCV production quite a bit. So he could be caught slightly off guard, but just keeping some units in front of his base will buy him time against these lurkers.
Okay, so this is the problem, is since he is making turrets kind of everywhere, it does seem like he's still a little bit afraid of mutas.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is, without a bunker up here, the Terran may just end up dying with mass lings and lurkers, assuming that HyuN decides to be aggressive, which he's not doing so far.
Okay, some bunkers being made. He's kind of starting to feel this out, that it doesn't seem like mutas are here. They probably would have started attacking right around now. So still has a decent little spread of Marines continuing to tech up in his main base.
Right,
here we go!
Oh, the Marines are going to have to retreat, going through somewhat of a filter here with that depot. The lurkers do come down. Oh, great connects there on those Marines.
This is fantastic. Killing 3 medics off. That's a really nice result.
All right, he's going for it.
Oh, my God.
He wants to get right on top of this bunker, completely annihilating all the SCVs before they can repair.
Taking that out in a matter of seconds, but still, there is a second bunker pulling up a lot of SCVs, getting to destroy quite a few with these lurkers, but he loses a lot of the lurkers.
I do wonder if he had attacked in there a little bit sooner when that bunker wasn't quite complete, if this could have gone a little bit better here, because really, truly, the bunkers are what are going to help you stop those lurkers. Morlings do spill in, eliminating a large number of that infantry army. Now, with this all being said, it's still Zerg on 2 base and Terran on 2 bases.
Yeah.
The Terran did lose a good amount of SCVs trying to repair those bunkers, but I think Lass is still okay this game.
Yeah, look how aggressively he's standing outside of his base. He wants to have some surface area, some ways to move his Marine medic around. If he gets too contained, then he'll end up needing a siege tank to get out, or a dropship or something like that, and that is not what he wants to be in right now. So this is a really great move from Last, coming out into the middle of the map, but not finding where these lings are at the moment.
Okay, the lings now heading up.
Oops.
Yeah, now he stims and goes in there, but these lings instead spill into the main here. They're going to go try to get some SCVs. They also get to see exactly how late the science vessel is going to be, since the add-on is just now planted over there.
Yeah, this all started out like pretty well for HyuN, but the end of the lurker push, and like for instance this ling running, it's not terrible, but these are larvae, right? This is less lings that he's going to have. The bioforce is only going to get bigger. It's only going to get more supported as siege tanks and vessels are going to be popping out.
Almost a questionable rally here with these 2 Hydras just in, I don't know what the deal is. So losing the Hydras is quite a big deal in a ZVT, because the Hydras are there to become lurkers. So this means that the overall lurker count is going to be reduced. Zerg is kind of staying on pretty low gas, and we're actually seeing a very funny tech path here. He's going for Hive on 2 bases.
Okay.
And this is not normal in a ZVT.
No, he might feel like he needs to do something like this, though. It's so hard to hold a 3rd base on this map. So rushing up to that is going to give him access to defilers a little bit quicker. And if you get your defilers out, you can begin to hold on. So will HyuN get there? This is really the next thing we're watching, right? Because he's not going to truly have enough units to fight this army, but if he can slow it down, get those defilers and defend his 3rd base, That's where HyuN can start looking like he can win this game.
We have the dropship now moving out over here towards the upper right, and he actually may end up just gliding right into this expansion that the Zerg's trying to take, which is kind of funny. It may not. Okay, never mind. He's going to point this down now. I was going to say, because if you could just keep the Zerg on 2 bases, you basically win the game.
Yeah,
I mean, the Zerg just doesn't have an army that's ever going to be big enough to combat a powering 2-base Terran.
Yeah, the 3rd base is so critical, and that's one of the reasons why this can be a very tough map.
By the way, it's a little bit risky for Terran to be moving out without a science vessel because of hold position lurkers, but it doesn't look like HyuN went that direction here.
Fantastic control coming out of last right there. Some good splits, very small ones. A drop in the main base as well. Sees that Defiler Mound. Where are the units here for HyuN? Only a small group of Lings.
Yeah, he's just targeting whatever. Interestingly enough, not going for that Defiler Mound, which would actually hiccup this a little bit further, but I think he's just fine having this position under control. Keep in mind how hard it is to macro in a TVZ. He just wants to have these units doing as much damage as possible and keeping the Zerg honest. And now with the Science Vessel in here, this may be potentially the killing blow. I don't know where, if there is a Defiler, there should be 1 or 2 out.
If he doesn't have one, he's about to die. He needs Dark Storms now, but it looks like he just doesn't have anything. A few Lings coming up with those Sunkens, not even sieging to take that out. Last knows he needs to hit at this exact moment. And
GG, nicely done.
Huh. I mean, that was not a bad try from HyuN. He had a little bit of success in the beginning of that lurker push, but 2 bunkers is truly the counter to something like that. When you hit the front, you can take out the first bunker pretty quickly, but you're going to bleed out over time.
Yeah.
So, good defense there by Last, showing why he is one of the strongest players in the world and one of the favorites for the tournament.
HyuN outclassed there. Interesting to see him rush to that Hive Tech. That was definitely, I think, a tell that he was really uncomfortable in that game.
Yes.
You normally want to have your 3rd base up, but he took a risk by running in there with those lurkers, especially since he didn't get in there. You know, he got there when both bunkers were done. Then he lost all those lurkers. He couldn't comfortably take a 3rd, and that was it.
Yeah, it was a tough one for HyuN, but Last goes on to that winner's match kind of as expected. Will HyuN be able to come back?
We'll see. First, we're going to go to a short break.